Welcome to Talent Hub TV, episode 7. Here with Adam Best today. Adam's a long-term Salesforce professional who's currently working on one of the biggest Salesforce projects or in one of the biggest Salesforce environments in Asia Pac. So we wanted to sit down with Adam and talk about his career and some of the things he's been working on recently. So welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Ben, for having me.
Can you tell us a bit more about your background and life before Salesforce?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I started my career as a junior accounts receivable person.
Okay.
And soon found a knack for IT and ventured into IT very early on.
Yeah.
I guess background technologies is SAP, the old R2, R3.
Sure.
And then a bit of open source through the early 2000s. And Sugar CRM.
Yeah.
Before someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, come work on Salesforce."
Okay. And when was that?
I think 2006, 2007. Just at the turn when they were putting in custom objects.
Sure. And what was your initial role and exposure to Salesforce?
At the beginning, it was working with a good friend who we went into business together as a small consultancy.
Yeah.
Just implementing small to medium business.
Yeah.
And then obviously venturing out to the tier ones.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So what are you doing now? What's your current role?
Currently a solution and delivery architect for one of the tier ones here in Sydney, and that involves standing up the DevOps, running the DevOps, quite a large team.
Sure.
Supporting pre-prod.
Yeah.
As well as the delivery.
Yeah.
Of the features, as well as the provisioning of the boxes coming back.
Okay.
So it's 3 enterprise releases at any one time concurrently.
Yeah.
In CUAT, and lots and lots of devs.
Sure. Okay. And when you say tier 1, you don't mean consulting, tier 1 banking, right? So you're not in the consulting world any longer.
No, I actually work for an end customer.
Yeah.
In the
cool.
financial service industry.
Okay. So you've kind of made a niche for yourself in the DevOps world. So DevOps within Salesforce.
Sure.
What does that mean? What is DevOps within Salesforce? What is it? What can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. So I guess when people think about Salesforce, they think about a developer and a functional consultant.
Yeah.
They think about building the features, and usually they will do change sets out to production. DevOps is really taking that next step and saying, hey, we've got multiple teams, tens or sometimes hundreds of developers. You've got a waterfall style, release cycle where you have to join other projects. So it's really taking DevOps it's really taking Salesforce to more a CI/CD solution, so that you can jump your feature across multiple boxes, the delivery out to production. Not more important, equally as important, it's actually provisioning those build teams with the tools as you're coming back as well. So getting that dev box stood up pretty much instantly. The time is money.
Yeah.
So if a team gets stood up and they need tools, you need to get that dev box out to them with things like passwords, remove data in there, so on and so forth. So.
Okay, so you come from a development background, and now you're operating as a true specialist and pretty niche into that DevOps space. So how did you make that transition, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I was lucky because my background industry, Sugar CRM, was more of an open source. It was on a Linux box. You did have to understand the infrastructure behind it. So it was really easy transition for me. I'd already had experience in another vertical, on another application, so I just applied those same principles to Salesforce.
Sure. And was it like a strategic move? You could see that the Salesforce projects and environments were getting bigger, and therefore they would need people like yourself?
I don't know whether it's strategic, but it was a natural move. I have a passion for DevOps. I have a passion for delivery. So it really just came, side by side with that passion.
Okay.
I saw that it wasn't done well.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it well. and I want everyone to do it well.
Sure.
Right throughout APAC.
So what about tools and to learn and pick up the ways in which you become a DevOps specialist? Are there tools out there like, how you have Trailhead for Salesforce developers? Is there anything you could recommend to people?
Look, there is a little bit. There's not too much. I would say if you're not a developer, you're more likely going to have to go around an app exchange route such as AutoRabbit.
Yeah.
If you are a developer in a larger organization, you're probably going to have enterprise CI/CD tools for that organization.
Sure.
It might be GoCD, Bamboo, Jenkins.
Yeah.
So really just using those tools and then getting the metadata API on top of that.
Okay. So what does your day look like? Your role currently, what does it look like day to day? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, absolutely. So my sole job is to make sure that we save time and to make sure that the teams aren't down, for any instance, and to make sure we're delivering the features out to production.
Sure.
So primarily one of my roles is making sure that we reduce manual steps.
Yeah.
Going out to production and making sure that we get a better box for a better dev instance for the build teams. Just a lot of scripting, supporting the build teams.
Sure.
And supporting the business going out to production.
Okay. And is DevOps something that all companies should be thinking about now, or do you need to be a certain size, have a certain amount of developers? What's the right kind of time to think, right now DevOps is a play we need to make?
Look, in my opinion, everyone needs to think about DevOps. Whether you have 2 people in your team, you can always, everyone's building, so you can always actually test that build 10 times a day, every half an hour, every hour, so that you get quicker out to production and you don't have you're not stumbling over yourself when you're hitting production and validating.
Sure.
Definitely for larger teams, you can't give the business options of when they need to go out, what code needs to go out when, if you don't have a good platform to do that. So everyone definitely needs to think about DevOps. Git flow branching methodology is my favorite, and making sure that you are delivering out to production the right code for the business when they want it, as well as making sure that you get the boxes back with updated code for the build teams to build on.
Sure. Okay. So a company decides, right, we're at the point now we're going to start thinking about a DevOps plan. What are the considerations? What do they need to kind of have in mind?
Yeah. Well firstly, you need a DevOps architect, so someone to get in there and formulate a plan, find out the current processes so that you can tweak those processes, to reduce impact on the team.
Sure.
Find out what enterprise tools the company is using, use those, or introduce some that are friendly to Salesforce. And then once you've formulated your plan, making sure that you move everyone in the same direction, at the same time. So getting up a developer onboarding guide to make sure everyone's comfortable committing. Yeah. Upskilling people who can't commit.
Sure.
To version control, and then having a phased approach. So phase 1 might be putting CI/CD in the build phase, and then slowly releasing that out to sit UAT in production.
Okay.
Once you've gone out to production, then you can come back and have a look at your provisioning of your environments to make sure you're getting out the passwords, filling the data, and other tools. We had what's an issue? What an issue tomorrow might not be an issue today. An example might be that as your team grows, you're going to spend more time on giving people access. Create a proxy tool so that they can go and give themselves access to the boxes that they need to.
Yeah. Okay. So on that upskilling piece, so people that haven't come from an environment where DevOps is a feature or focus, and the tools that you've just mentioned that they need to learn and kind of get used to working in this way. How have you found that upskilling piece? Like, are most developers able to pick up the processes and the understanding and the theory behind it? Yeah,
absolutely. Both onshore and offshore. So if you make a process really simple, if you have some screenshot instructions to say, hey, here's a typical day in the life of a dev in our company. This is how you commit code. this is how you request access. So it is really what I call a developer onboarding guide.
Yeah.
So everything you need to do your work is really in that guide. And that guide isn't a write once and forget about. That guide is forever being changed and being improved. Even to the point of, in your organization, you might not commit some metadata because of security reasons. Maybe you don't commit connected apps or known credentials. And so you would then have almost like a cheat sheet of what you commit and what you don't commit.
Sure.
And then as new developers come on board, maybe you have them come on board in groups or singular, or they come individually. You then obviously offer training sessions or a training video so that they know how to do things in your particular build environment.
Okay. So from going from environments that perhaps didn't have the procedures and policies in place to now working and putting these plans and procedures and policies in place, what successes have you seen companies have with a clear and defined DevOps plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So reducing manual steps, which is obviously preserving the path to production and better repeatable steps, by a factor of 10. So you can literally reduce steps from 100, even 200 sometimes, down to just 10 or 15. You obviously can eliminate regression issues. So where you might have regression issues because of those amount of manual steps. Being able to multi-stream, so being able to offer the business the ability to run multiple streams of build and multiple streams of sit and UAT at the same time, and ultimately saving time, which equals money.
Yeah.
So the culture of a build team as well is really important. So getting every single person in the team excited about, hey, we've got to make sure that we keep our build green. We've got to make sure we commit the code, and not just kind of thinking, oh, that's too hard. Let's chuck it on a run sheet and do that as a manual step. If you have one manual step in your particular feature, as you join other teams, it compounds. And if you've got 3 concurrent releases, if you've got 20, 30, and 40 environments on your end-to-end, you might do your manual step 10 times going out. But compounding, it's all the other boxes when they consume the latest production code. And so it could be thousands of times that you do that manual step.
Okay. So let's talk Salesforce DX.
Very excited.
What's that going to mean for the market, and what have you been playing around, if at all, with DX? Yeah,
I have been playing around with DX a little bit. I think the maturity of the maturity of the market needs to understand what DX is and how that's going to change the landscape of the organization.
Sure.
So DX is a source control build tool. It's not a source control delivery tool. So you'd actually do your changes on your scratch org, which is, by the way, is a vanilla version of Salesforce, not your traditional sandbox.
Yeah.
And then that'll sync nicely down to a source control repo. You can definitely use DX going out as a delivery tool, but it's not a source control delivery tool. Okay. It's kind of like a beefed up change set where you can combine multiple artifacts, which are essentially change sets going out to production.
Sure.
The value in DX, I think, is phenomenal. As we just discussed earlier, you're going to have to skill up even your declarative designers on source control.
Okay.
Well, I think with DX we can take that away, and if you put CI/CD in coupled with DX, you can have a declarative designer, say, add a field. And then instead of having to pull down the field, the object, the profiles, the permission sets, any layouts, DX has a command which is called a pull, and it'll sync that all down to your artifact. So I think it's definitely going to reduce build time by up to 20%, I believe.
Yeah.
the other values is that obviously you're going to have need lower skills. You're not going to need source control skills for the majority of your team.
Yeah.
So that's going to save a bit of time and money upskilling, and maybe some money on lower skilled resources as well.
And what about as a developer looking at DX? What should they kind of start to think about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the developer needs to understand that DX is a command line interface today. It does have some cool. There are some cool, GUIs out there. AutoRabbit will have a nice GUI. There's some extensions on code, Visual Code.
Yeah.
Which I use. I use Visual Code.
Sure.
So yeah, just get in and have a play. You do need a production license.
Okay.
In your organisation. So enable the Dev Hub.
Yeah.
Run up a Scratch org and just have a play and see what you can do.
Okay, cool. And anyone that's watching this thinking DevOps is the way for me to go, potentially from a Salesforce development background, what's your advice?
Look, if you're passionate about DevOps, then yeah, I guess the name of the game is automation. So make sure you get that delivery out, without any regression issues, making sure your build is green 100% of the time. And then just as important, make sure you're provisioning those boxes, ready for a build team the minute that they're provisioned, making sure you get passwords out of custom settings, make sure you get data in there, either using the data loader, IO, or whatever ETL tools, and get into a bigger organisation that might have that buy-in already.
Yeah.
You definitely need to have an organisation that has the buy-in to DevOps.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. And you're going to Dreamforce this year, your first
I am. Yeah, I am.
You're doing a presentation?
I'm doing a presentation on DevOps, so I'll post out the link once my profile's up. And,
sure.
If you're in San Francisco, I'd love for you to attend.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely be there, and thanks for your time today, and definitely recommend anyone that's going to Dreamforce this year makes it to Adam's session. I really appreciate that, and let's see how things continue to grow in the DevOps space.
Thanks, Ben.
Cheers.